Hi, all. Welcome to the Bare Naked podcast. My name is Briana, and I am a licensed social worker and therapist. Today, I am here with the host of the Bare Naked podcast, Dr. Willametta Simmons. Today I'll be interviewing her for her podcast that we're so excited to be here for.
Yes.
How are you today, Dr. Simmons?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for interviewing me for the story behind this podcast.
Yeah, I'm excited. Thank you. It's been an honor. Why don't you start off by telling us a little about yourself?
Sure. So, thank you for the introduction, first of all. My name is Dr. Simmons. I am a psychologist, a humanitarian, an entrepreneur, and the creator of the Bare Naked podcast. I was born in Liberia, West Africa, which is a tiny little country on the west coast of Africa. And I immigrated here to the United States when I was 12 years old due to a civil war that was in our country. So I am a child survivor of a civil war. And that experience really shaped the way that I see people, the way that I see the world. And as I look back, I think it may have even shaped the career path that I chose.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing. We're all here for the Bare Naked podcast.
Yeah.
So, what is the Bare Naked podcast?
Sure. So, the Bare Naked podcast is really a podcast about truth and authenticity.
Mm-hmm.
It's about being able to create a safe space where everyone can feel encouraged, empowered to share their stories, their unique stories. I think there's beauty in everything that we go through, the good and the bad,
Mm-hmm.
right? And this is where we can talk about taboo topics. You know how much I love talking about
Yes.
the things that no one wants to talk about, things like mental health, things like trauma, depression, all of those various things, abuse,
Mm-hmm.
incest, infidelity,
Yeah.
everything that we try to cover up.
Mm-hmm.
This is a space to talk about that openly and freely, and to get help.
Yeah.
So that's what this Bare Naked podcast is about. The goal of this particular podcast is to empower people and really to inspire a sense of understanding, healing, and growth.
That's great. Honestly, there's just no better person to do this podcast. So
Thank you.
It's great. What audience are you trying to get to join this podcast and be a part of with you?
Yeah, so I know that it seems a little vague, but I think anyone that is interested, truly interested in self-discovery, anyone that's interested in understanding themselves, knowing how they can heal,
Mm-hmm.
and growing really from their own trials and tribulations, I want that person to be a part of this particular podcast. So if you're interested in self-discovery, self-healing, and growth, this is the place to be.
Well, I know I'll be tuned in.
All right. I'm so happy to hear that. Yeah.
And so the Bare Naked podcast, how did that name come about?
Yeah. So it's an interesting story behind that name. You know a little bit of some of the background. I've been meaning to do this podcast for years now.
Mm-hmm.
And all the way back in 2018, I was driving home after a long day of seeing, clients and so forth. And on my drive home, I was reflecting on just themes that come up a lot in my practice, right? I've been doing this for 20 years now.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that came up was this whole idea of covering up.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, as I drove home, before the theme made sense, I just heard a voice in my head that said, my people suffer because they're too afraid to bare naked. And that was such a powerful moment for me, right? So again, as a believer, I recognize that as being the voice of God.
Yeah.
And immediately my mind went to the book of Genesis chapter 2, where it mentions that Adam and Eve, they're in the Garden of Eden, and it says they were naked and unashamed. And I thought about how liberating, how freeing it is to be transparent, to be naked, and not have shame attached to it. When we think about human suffering, a lot of us, we cover up so much. And in doing so, we we suffer in silence.
Mm-hmm.
But I've recognized over the years that our healing
Yeah.
comes through being able to bear naked, being able to be transparent, being able
Mm-hmm.
to be authentic, and really putting it all out there so that people know that they're not alone.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how this came about.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I feel like just like in society, like speaking for myself, is
Yeah.
that like society teaches you that you have to like be perfect, right?
Yeah.
And like
Yeah.
put this mask on
Mhm.
and be something that, maybe you're not that day,
Yeah.
So, I love that, like the message that you're trying to get across is like, being yourself, and that's all you can really do. Show
Mhm.
up authentically as yourself,
Yeah.
and just do that every day.
Every day.
Honestly.
100%. Yeah, I think, we as a society, we really do ourselves a disservice
Mm-hmm.
when we send the message that we need to put on a mask.
Mm-hmm.
Because when we're masking ourselves or putting on this mask, we're actually masking who we truly are,
Yeah.
but we're also masking normal human struggles,
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times when we do so, we don't get the help we need.
Yep.
Right? So we suffer in silence.
Yeah.
We act like all is well. But why do that when there's help out there?
Mm-hmm.
When we can actually be able to connect with another person by sharing our stories. So
Yeah.
there's no better time than now in
Yeah.
my mind to have this podcast where we can have a safe space to converse about our deepest struggles.
Yeah.
What are we going through?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I also just like a comment that I want to add is like it's just so important to show up for yourself, because someone else might be dealing with exactly what you're going through, and like just normalizing that, like whatever you're feeling, like you're not alone, right?
Yeah.
There is help, and you might be able to like help someone else, right? By just sharing your story and like being yourself and making people feel like they're not alone in this.
100%.
Yeah.
I love what you just said about you may be able to help someone else. And I would add that's a lot of times, more often than not, in helping someone else, we actually find ourselves helping ourselves.
Oh, so
because
true.
You've ever given someone advice and you pause in your head and say, wow, I really should take that advice for myself, right? So whenever we venture out to help someone else, oftentimes we actually end up getting our healing from helping another person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really great.
Yeah.
You kind of already answered this, but why do you think it's important to just be bare naked?
Yeah. Because there's only one you.
Yeah.
And your truth is important.
Yes.
And your story is important. I really believe that everything we go through, good, bad, and ugly, is preparing you for something greater.
Yes.
It's building character within you. It's building you to be able to help another person that is going to go through that or is currently in the midst of that. And I've learned that every struggle, every human struggle, there's always a reason for that. There's always someone who, you could help in the process. And I think it's important to bear naked because when we bear naked, we get our healing. When we bear naked, we show up for ourselves.
Yeah.
When we bear naked, we actually are able to model that it's okay to be authentic.
Yep.
You don't, in a world where everyone's trying to be someone else, it's okay to be you. It's okay to be transparent about what you're going through. Whenever we do that, it's liberating, it's exhilarating, and it's healing. So that's why it's important to bear naked.
Yeah, that just makes me think of like, being bare naked. Like that's your best self, honestly. Even if it doesn't look perfect to like someone else or society, like that's your best person, you know?
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so tell us the why for this podcast.
Yeah. All right, so there are a few things. Why? I think it's important to normalize human suffering. Like I said, this is about talking about taboo topics, the things that we try to shy away from.
Yes.
And the things we cover up are, in essence, the things that are so common to human experience that when we actually dare to talk about it, we realize that, like, wow, my sister's going through it. My neighbor just went through it. My friend is going through the same thing. And so, number one is to normalize human suffering.
Yeah.
The other thing that this podcast is meant to do is to empower us to understand make sense of our struggles. But don't just stop there.
Yeah.
Now learn tools to help yourself through, right? So if your struggle is anxiety, well, then how do we combat anxiety? How do we overcome it? What are some tools? I think what's really unique about this particular podcast is that you'll have practical tools that you can apply to your life, right? And so it's normalizing human experience. It's about empowering you to understand what's going on for you and equipping you with tools to apply to your daily life for your own healing.
Yeah.
And then last but not least, it's really to be able to I enjoy talking about this stuff. I enjoy talking about taboo. I enjoy talking about mental health and really holistic health. And for me, this is about being able to share the knowledge that's been accumulated over the years and to enjoy doing so and enjoy helping other people.
Yeah. Well, I love it. You kind of answered my next question. Okay. You were, talking to us about like your why, and honestly, I like the idea that like you're not just talking about these topics, right? You're giving us something like we can leave here with something like a tool that we can use in our real life, right?
Yeah.
To be able to like work through these things that we're going through.
Yeah.
And that did lead me to my next question about what makes your podcast different than other podcasts. Is there anything else you want to add?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Well, I think what makes it different, number one, is based off of personal and professional experience.
Okay.
It's based off of accumulated knowledge over the years. Again, 2 decades, that's a long time. It's also, for me, what I really think will differentiate this from other podcasts is the idea that it's not my podcast. It's our podcast. Collectively, all of us are taking this journey together.
Yes.
And I want to encourage like the audience to be able to, let me know what you want to hear about, what you want me to talk about. What do you need practical tools on, right? So if someone, I've already had a request for trust issues, right? That someone wants to learn about trust issues. Trust issues will be coming up. It's something we'll be discussing. Someone said, could you talk about insecurities? I will be talking about insecurities. So I want to encourage the audience to feel free to participate in this. I don't want to just be dumping different things on you, but it would be really cool if you submitted a request and you realize, oh, wow, they're talking about my topic. Wow. So really, we're taking this journey together. It's about us partnering to create a safe space and to heal together.
Yes.
And that's what this is about. It's our journey.
Yeah, I love that. Like providing an environment for us all to learn from and grow from. And it's not just like what you want to talk about. It's like, what does your listeners and followers want to talk about?
Absolutely. Yeah. Relationship issues.
Yeah.
That came up a lot. We'll do an entire relationship series on different kinds of relationships. That should be a fun one. We'll have a few guests on and looking at it from different perspectives. So there's a lot coming down the pipe, and I'm just so excited about it. But it's about us. It's our collective podcast. Join in and let's build a beautiful tapestry together.
I love it. Yeah. Thank you. So is there any other messages that you would like to leave your audience with?
Sure. A few things. Number one, I want to let the audience know that suffering of all kinds is inherent in the human experience. It's what we all go through, If you're not suffering right now, you're probably going to in a little bit, or you probably just came out of a suffering state. And that's, it's all right. I want to normalize it. I want you to know that it's fine, that it's okay that we've gone through all of these things. But listen, your unique trials create such a beautiful, triumphant story for you and for someone else that's watching you and for someone else that's looking to you for some kind of guidance, right? So let's normalize the experience of like, oh, I get, I feel shy sometimes, or I'm insecure sometimes, or I don't feel enough sometimes, or sometimes I feel a little bit sad or depressed and anxious. Those are all part of the human experience. So rather than covering it up and pretending that all is well, for us to just boldly be authentically ourselves and share our stories so that we can create a sense of connectedness, right? And that we can have a shared healing journey together. So that's the main thing that I want the audience to know. I want them to also know that there are resources out there.
Yes.
There are things that you can do to help yourself. And if you find it hard to help yourself, it's okay to reach out to a professional too and say, hey, listen, I need help with this. I need help with that. And we've got too much at our fingertips to not take advantage of it. Don't let stigma get in the way. Don't let fear of judgment get in the way. Just show up for you. Show up for you. That's my biggest thing.
I love it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So I guess we're kind of wrapping it up, and I was curious if you could give us a little sneak peek of your first episode and possibly a topic.
Mm-hmm. I do want to let you all know that there will be new episodes dropping every week. So make sure, yes. I'm taking on a huge task here. So make sure that you listen in, subscribe, you follow us on all of our socials. I'll give it to you. But next week, since Briana's putting it out there, she wants to know, I'll give you a sneak peek about what's coming up next. We are going to be talking about imposter syndrome. What is it? Are we it? Is it relatable? If you're not familiar with it, definitely tune in. We'll talk about it, and I'm looking forward to it. Because it's something that a lot of people can relate to. Mm-hmm. They may not know it by that name, but when I start to tell you about it, you're going to say, I didn't know it had a name. That's a thing. So we'll start there. And I just want to say the reason why I'm even starting with that is because that's something that's so relatable to me. And I figure if I'm going to be encouraging the audience to be transparent, I too need to be transparent, right? So it starts with me. Yes. So we'll talk about imposter syndrome. Sneak peek next week.
Very exciting.
All right.
Well, thank you so much for allowing me to interview you today. I am so happy you took the step to do this journey. You have 20 years of experience and you have so much to provide to the world, and we could learn so much from you, and I'm sure you learn from us as well. But we're really excited to be on this journey with you.
Absolutely. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you for, you were one of the people that, have encouraged me over the years, quite frankly, to step out. I think I need to practice what I preach, right? Because I'm the queen of encouraging people to just go for it. You got this. What do you need? I got you. Mm-hmm. But then when it came to me being able to take a step out, there was some hesitation and there were a lot of reluctance. And I'm grateful to you and all the other, the other people that's just really been like, you got it, Dr. Mm-hmm. Simmons, just go ahead and do it. So here we are, the Bare Naked Podcast, coming raw, authentic, and transparent to you. That's it.
Thank you. So where can we follow you and find you?
Okay, so you can follow me on all of our socials. You can check me out on YouTube. Just check out the Bare Naked Podcast. We will show up there. YouTube.com/ the Bare Naked Pod. Same with Instagram, the Bare Naked Pod. Twitter, the Bare Naked Pod. Facebook for those of us that are still on the Facebook platform, as for us old folks, they say. Check us out on the Bare Naked Pod. So just check us out wherever. And also, if you're a podcaster like I am, you like to listen to podcasts, check us out on Spotify Podcasts, Apple, Google. You can check us out on wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. You can look for us there. Just type in the Bare Naked Podcast and we will show up. Okay. And I want to highlight YouTube because it's free, accessible to all people. Mm-hmm. And so you can just check us out there as well. Again, please. I appreciate all the folks who responded so wonderfully to the trailer, right? Yes. To the introduction. I want to ask you to take it one step further, which is just check us out and listen to the podcast, like it, subscribe, and then hit that little notification button, right? To be notified whenever we drop a new episode. I know that you will love it. Mm-hmm. All right.
Well, thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your time. Thank you for, wonderful questions and interviewing me. And just really, it means so much to me. I appreciate you for that.
Thank you.